Hello, and welcome to the Healing Path. I'm Laura Donnelly from Dancing with Ease, Body Brain Balance. And today I'm really excited. I have a good friend from my dancing days who will speak today. Her name is Zoe Levine, and she will share with you some of her story on her healing path. And this series of conversations happens randomly when people are available, because that's how I like to work. A little bit of improv. And mostly it's with friends and colleagues that I have who are working in some modality on the healing path. And the thing that we really share as common ground is that all healing begins with self-healing, the intention from inside to do some healing work. And a lot of times we don't even know what that is. Could be working with a medical doctor, could be working with alternative medicine. It could just be working on your own, in your own house, with your own body. It takes many forms. And the journey is a journey of unfolding. So I'm going to bring Zoe into the studio here, and we'll just chat a bit. Hey, Zoe.
Hi, Laura.
It's so good to see you. I might put a picture. I have a picture of you guys dancing in Wichita with Topu. Yeah, I might put it in the comments so people could
see that. Actually, it's been a long time since I've even seen a picture from that period, so please do.
It was so fun, and I was so excited to see how your work has changed and evolved and developed, and that although when we were dancing we didn't really talk about healing and wellness, and we talked about dance and energy and movement and stuff like that, but then all these times, maybe more than, did you tell me it was close to 20 years?
Yeah.
Gee, mini Christmas. But we've also been just going in our own spaces on a similar track, which I find so fun.
Yeah.
And delightful.
Absolutely.
So share whatever you would like with people about who you are, how you got where you are.
Sure. Yeah. So we know each other from dance days at the University of Arizona, where I was a dance major in the undergrad program. And I was fresh out of high school, fresh into college at that point. So I didn't have a lot of experience. I didn't know what I was going to do with my dance degree at all. And the dance degree turned into wanting to go to New York City after I graduated, and turned into, I waited tables once that summer before, and I was like, I'm never doing that. I don't want to do that in New York City. It's weird. It wears down my body. And so I love studying the human body. So I was like, great, I'll do some personal training. That seems like a great part-time gig. I can study my instrument, which is an easy yes for me. And so I started doing that. And so my healing, any idea that I had about healing came from not my own body at first. So it was like this kind of pre-period and then my own healing journey. So this pre-period I was just young and figuring things out and looking at the fitness world and saying like, oh my, like what? I had never, before I became a personal trainer, I was only a dancer. I had never really worked out in a gym. I had no idea what was going on in the fitness world. And so I got there and I was like, oh, like everybody, just injuries everywhere. And, we're taught, well, my knee hurts. And it's like, the joke my parents used to use all the time, well, don't use it. That hurts when I do that. Well, don't do that. And that's kind of how we were taught to work with these issues. And everybody has back pain, neck and shoulder pain and tension, hip pain, knee pain. It was just what we saw all the time. And I was like, that seems dumb just to avoid it and stop moving those things. So you have to get your continuing education. So even early on, all of my continuing education was always around, well, what can I do to help support these people that are in pain? Why are they in pain in the first place? What's going on? My 20 something body that's just dancing and doing whatever the heck it wants. Like, why would anyone be in pain? I don't understand. And why can't other people experience their body in just a carefree, like really, satisfying, feel good sort of way? As a young dancer, that was just like, what? Not everybody is in their body in that way. and everyone's all stuck in their heads and like, what do you mean move my arm this way? And so it was just a really interesting to start working with, I always joke about normal people, like non-dancers. Um, and so all of that was constantly, well, how do I get people out of pain and feeling better? And then that's why I got into the world of the pre and postnatal and pelvic floor health, because I saw as my friends were starting to have kids, all these things were coming up. I was like, that sounds horrible. Like, let's figure out how we can avoid that before I get to that point in my life. And so it was always this kind of like, well, I don't want to deal with what you're dealing with right now. And so why not from here, can I just figure out how to avoid that in the first place and then help other people to do that? And then, so that was the pre times. And then 3.5 years ago, maybe a little bit more, almost 4 years ago, I was diagnosed with stage 4 colorectal cancer, which was a shock coming from a lifetime in the health and wellness world. Right. And I'm like, what do you mean? What are you talking about? And so that became a whole nother, okay, well, and the treatment for that is really worse than, I felt fine. Obviously it would have done me in shortly if we had not caught it, but I didn't feel bad. That's one of the things. You don't have a lot of symptoms with that kind of thing. I had plenty of energy. But the treatment just it is kind of trying to kill you. Like that's how you go about treating this thing. And, stage 4 is nothing to mess around with. So we did all the things. There was radiation, there was all the chemotherapy, there were 4 surgeries ultimately. And I've been cancer free for the past 2.5 years, but I didn't only do that. And I kind of went through it I had never had surgery before. I had never been in a hospital before. I had never, even for my 2 kids, I just never had interacted with the medical world. And my attitude kind of had to be 2 things. One, all right, in order to get to a yes, to like, yes, you can take away 60% of my liver. Yes, we can do chemo for this long. Yes. And it was hard to get to the yes for that in the first place. But the thing that I ultimately came to was, all right, you know what? Do anything you want. I work toward healing people. I know how to recover from these things. And what I don't know, I'm going to freaking learn, and I'm going to help other people do it too, because there's plenty of other people that are dealing with all of this craziness. And cancer treatment is just,
it's so hard. It's so hard on the body.
Oh my gosh. And, to be coming from a place of like, I only want to do nice things to my body, and my body has never been through anything remotely close. So it was just that attitude of, all right, I'm going to figure out the best ways to get through this and the best ways to like pair it with, all the things. And, if I make it through this, then great, I'll have so much more information. And so my teaching really did change a lot from, the before times to the after times in terms of what I expect from people, I think, and what I just understand about the, the doctors. And if you've ever had a surgery, a doctor will tell you, hopefully, or someone hopefully in your life will tell you, healing is not a linear path.
Oh, yeah.
And I, from before times, would have been like, I know, but for me though, like I know all the things, so I can just keep getting straight line better and better and better. And every time I thought that, I just got knocked back down, and I had to be told to, this is not a linear process. And so having to learn that, it's just like, yes, the trajectory is going to go up, and yes, a year from now things are going to be very different, but the detailed in between, not. And I had never experienced that before. I had never seen it firsthand, and I got to do it just 500 times over within a year. And the year after, that was my, real healing, right? It's the treatment of just like kill you. And then after, if you get that after period to just, okay, now the real healing begins.
And you know what I think what I heard in your story is that your very first intention was to heal.
Oh yeah.
That was pretty much like, oh crap, not my choice, not my first choice, not my 150th choice, but I'm going to get well.
Yeah.
And what is well, just like what is healing? and healing is different. I think healing is different for every person. And to make that space for yourself to go through what you described as this up and down and good days and bad days. And yesterday I could do X, Y, and Z. That I know from my mom's, she had cancer treatment, that was so frustrating to her.
Mm-hmm.
Because like you, she said, I've recovered from and like a broken bone is pretty much regular. PT a little weird, but whatever. But that is kind of linear, and like if you cut yourself, then the skin comes back together, and then it makes a scab, and then it makes a scar, and then it disappears if you're lucky. So there are pieces of healing that happens that way, but I think that what you describe is really important because it's so easy to get discouraged in the process. How did you work with that discouragement?
Always help the people around me. And I think I had people like you that speak about healing in the same way that you do. It's not black and white. I think I was comfortable with that in the first place. I think you're, when things get a little bit more life and death on you, it's easier to celebrate the little things. And I think it's different, it's different than, I think, almost living with chronic pain, I would imagine is more challenging in so many ways, right? This at least was a certain thing. I know this is why I'm having pain. This is what we're doing about it. And this is the process to heal after this like other horrible thing that we're going to do, because of it. So having the help and support to know, like I didn't go at it alone. I had other people that were going through the same thing at the same time, finding people on Facebook. I now mentor other people going through this treatment. And I just talk about all this stuff. And I had people talking to me about it. This isn't permanent. This isn't a setback. It just is what it is. And then I think just knowing a lot about the human body and how resilient it can be. And I just tend to be a little bit more of a glass half full kind of person in general, which I find very helpful. So it wasn't so I could hang on to all of the little things, like the fact that they were saying everything's operable and, I could make it through and there could be a light at the end of the tunnel. So having that kind of hope, but also knowing that it's okay to be knocked down, like knowing it's okay to be a puddle on the floor crying. And knowing that's just part of what I need like part of what you need sometimes on the way. It doesn't have to be positive. I don't know. Like I have a very positive attitude, but you also need to be a puddle on the floor in tears at some point. I feel like is part of the process. It's not ignoring that part, but it's doing it and then moving on when that's all through you. Right.
Well, there's so many things that you said. Like one is having some support, having people support you that can say, this little setback is a normal thing in the bigger picture. That's disappointing, but helpful to know. Because at first you think, oh no, I'm getting worse. And then you can have all that fear. The other thing that you said that is really important is that sometimes you need to be a puddle on the floor. And when we don't let that happen, then we store that energy in our body somewhere. And it's not good or bad. It's just like carrying something else, and your body's carrying enough when you're trying to heal from something like this. And it's working hard. So whenever you can offload some of the stuff, whether that's through venting, whether that's through talking to a support group, whether that's through doing little tiny little self-care things like you're talking about. Yes, it's hard. Now this is really funny because I didn't realize this about you, but I'm a glass half full person myself. And, you know, and most of my life people are like, did you just have to be such a Pollyanna, you know? And I'm like, I can list for you the 150 things that are going wrong. But I know my body feels different if I think about the things that are going right.
Yeah.
And I think that part of being able to heal is your body knowledge. It, you know, is that is this making me feel worse and this is a temporary worse, or is this a worse that I'm adding to because of how I am thinking about things? And that's a really moving point for most people. It's a each person I think has to start to find that. But in a group of people for who are supporting healing, I think it's easier to find that.
Yeah. Yeah. I was just thinking, you know, I think the human brain, or some people will say the human brain is usually wired to remember the negative. It's a more common tendency. And if I reflect back on that year of treatment, which was hell, like it was just hell in so many ways. There were so many magic little moments that for me and in my mind stand out as way overpowering all the rest. My niece was born that year, and I felt like I connected her, you know, my first niece, I felt like I connected to her in utero, and we had this very strong connection. And there were so many powerful moments with that. And I ended up having like a vision of what her name was supposed to be, and that is what her name is. And I had guessed it right from what they were already going to name her. And it was just crazy. And like the double rainbow that I saw outside of my, you know, surgery room the day after the last surgery, or the biggest surgery, and that kind of thing that just, you know, like latch on to those big other things and not see and I love how you said my body feels different when I see it that way. And I think because of that, because I am so like, that's how I experience everything, is through my body at a really, I don't know, like a really deep level. And so I think that's one reason I can't just let my mind go on all those other things, because my whole body is like, hold up, like we cannot function that way. Can you please give us something else to work with? And so you know, we like go in the spiral, but do it, like, but do it, really do it, and like let it crush you, and then come back out. Was always more helpful to me, because I really can't function. Like I need all of this to be on board, and I really like how you phrase that, because I experienced that for sure.
I think that I also think when we have something like a serious illness, it's very easy to, and I think it's really important to not be your illness, you know, to not identify with it, but also to not reject the body. So my body is sick, you know, I'm not sick, you know, but also to have the mental fortitude when they're like flooding you with chemicals and everything. Oh crap. Because that changes everything inside, and you have to give yourself time to come back to some kind of, well, as we know, moving balance point, because there's no static balance point. And that, I think, is also one of the things about being a dancer that helps, sounds like it helped you, that helps me deal with things, is that stuff is always moving. Stuff is always changing. You know, I can't fix it and have it stay right. I have to, it's like walking. My balance must change 5 or 10 or 15 times between two steps.
Mm-hmm.
And if I try to hold myself still, then I can't balance and I can't walk either. And so this working with your body, even when your body feels really terrible, is can be a challenge. I'm sure you help people with that, though.
Yes, well, and that's an interesting way that you say it too. That reminds me of, I used a lot of imagery, and so imagery in meditation, imagery just generally in terms of communicating with my body. So, it just reminds me exactly what you're talking about. Because in cancer, in particular, there's a lot of the like killing and fight, like just killing it and fighting it and destroying it. And I was like, that doesn't feel right to me. Like, it's my body. Like, it's also my body. And so, I'm one of those people that, I've had conversations with organs before in my mind. And, I'm sure I got that from some sort of healer on my path. And kind of asking in the image that came up. So basically in communicating with either that area or the cancer in general, what kept coming up was just like this little, like a small child that was just like, I didn't know, like, I'm sorry. I didn't know it was going to turn into this. Like, it wasn't a thing
Wow.
to be like beat down or like killed. And it was just like, this just went out of control. Like, it got out of hand. I didn't realize. And that was kind of the conversation that we were kind of having. And even, I thought a lot about death. I mean, I was 36, 37 when I was diagnosed, 36. And thinking a lot about death. Like, it's just not something I thought about often, in my 30s. It just wasn't a thing that I was considering could be closer for me than I was thinking. And I had to establish a relationship with that too. And so that image, like, where's that positive image that Zoe's always got ready? And, just sitting with it, it was like, again, like a small child, a little girl, not like the Grim Reaper coming to get me. It was just this small child, and we would just walk hand in hand. Like, she was just there. She's like, there was no, I'm coming to get you. She was just like very friendly, beautiful little girl in a dress. And she would just hold my hand, and we walked hand in hand a lot of that year. And that was a more comfortable image than, we have, our society, our culture has pretty awful images around death. And so lately, like, she doesn't hold my hand, and, it's more of she's off in the distance, and we don't need to communicate as often these days. And it wasn't often. These were just random little images. It's not like it was an all the time thing, but in meditation or, it was just ideas that would come up when I was feeling overwhelmed. And it's like, if I'm going to have to get comfortable with this, like, who are you really? Do I need to be so afraid? It's like, I'm not. Okay. What is that image? And so many beautiful images came up like that through, I did some, very body oriented therapy while I was preparing for my first surgery, because I was terrified, like totally terrified. I'm like, no, I can't.
No, I mean, like, how about if you've never had surgery before, you've never been knocked out before?
That was like my worst fear. As someone that is so like lives and experiences through my body, you're saying I'm just going to take that away from you completely. I'm just like, that's literally my worst nightmare.
It was scary. I had to have knee surgery, right? So I tore my ACL. I was pretty old. I was like 55 or something. But the first thing I said to the doctor, I said, "Are you sure you can't just go in there and super glue this back on? Just numb the knee and stick it back on with something,
Yeah.
Because I was more afraid of this is probably a dancer thing, being out of control.
That's it. No, that's so me. That's so me. It's so nice to hear someone else say that, because like all the other people that I'm talking to, non-dancer, regular people, are just like, what's the big deal? It's just like, you don't even feel anything. I was like, that's the point. Like, that's
I want to know what's happening. I mean, if it's deep pressure massage, I want to know it.
Yeah. And that's why I don't like pot. Like, I'm not good at like my body is being erased. Like, somebody put me back together. Like, what's going on? I don't like that sensation at all. And even, for a lot of the things that I wasn't going to be knocked out for, I had to tell them like, minimal drugs. Even before surgeries, I was like, no drugs. I can get on that table all by myself, nice and calm. I did my therapy. We're good, but don't give me drugs. I will punch you in the face, because I can't stand the feeling of those drugs even before they, so I'm so glad I'm not the only one, Laura. Thank you.
Well, so did you had a doctor who would listen to you, though, right?
Okay.
Who understood that you understood your body.
Mm-hmm.
And that's also, this communication is really important, I think, for the total healing. I didn't have a doctor who's like, I'm the doctor, you're the piece of meat, this is what we're going to do. He was just, he was like talking to me, I said, okay, like, I'm doing this knee thing, I've been gimping around for a while, so I'm out of whack. Can I do physical therapy beforehand so I'm in better shape to recover after the surgery?
Which everyone should do, yes.
And he's like, nobody ever asked that before, but I can prescribe that,
Yes, yeah.
And so he was really a good doctor, in my opinion, is a partner in my healing.
Oh, yes. Yes, absolutely.
And then to have faith in what you know. Mm-hmm. This is what I know about my body. It doesn't respond to, and he gave me pain pills, and I hate those. I took 2. But he's like, take something, because the tension from being in pain will inhibit your ability to heal.
Absolutely.
And I said, do you care what I take? He said, after the first day, no, And so I switched to aspirin really fast, because that's my body. It works with that. It understands that. And the other stuff just was icky, extra, worse. It compounded the thing.
Yeah.
When you work with somebody, do you help them get this understanding of their body before they go into surgery?
That's my goal. And I don't actually work with a ton of people going into surgery. It's happened a couple of times where some of my longstanding clients or students are heading that direction, and I always offer support in that way. It's not necessarily what I do, but yes, generally everything, all the modalities that I use, I feel like at least the one common thing in my world is you're gonna feel your body. Like you're gonna get used to feeling your own body and getting an understanding of what that's like, what you like. And so I love as a movement professional, people are always, because the fitness world is so, okay, here's what the squat's like. You have to do exactly this position and exactly this. And I do that kind of work too for specific things. But, people are always asking, am I doing it right? Am I doing it right? Am I doing it right? Which drives me bananas, because it's like, it's your body. How does it feel? That should be the number one thing to whether or not this is good, this is a good idea or a bad idea. How does it feel? Do you want to talk about it? Does it hurt your knees? Does it hurt this? Does your back feel okay? And then there's so much, half of what I do is just dancing with it, getting people to just move in different ways and experience their body in new ways that maybe they either forgot about or had never thought, like, oh, I can just do that with my spine. What do you mean?
Really
interesting. So weird. It feels so good. So taking the people that are typically would be like, oh, no, I'm not a dancer, and saying, okay, that's cool, but I'm going to put on some music. And I'm like, what if you let your eyes go around the room and just lead your neck? And there happens to be music on. Don't worry about that. Like, it's not dancing. Don't worry. So a lot of those little nuggets I do with just experience your body. I'll give you a million different fun cues so that it's just, it's wrapped in, it's sugar coated. It's not exercise. It's not a squat, but let's just explore, like, if your sits bones were leading, like, could you get them way back behind you? Could you move them around? And then all of a sudden you've done like 15 minutes of squatting to music, but it's not dancing and it's not exercise. So, but that's one of the ways I like to trick people into experiencing their bodies in new ways.
Okay, now I know you have kids, so I'm going to ask this question, because one of the things that I started doing in the intervening 20 years when we didn't see each other so much, because if you have a good body, a strong body, it goes through dancing well and healthy. But if you have some imbalances, And you don't end up with a teacher who helps you modify the dance technique
Hmm.
to accommodate your body, like you just talked about with your exercise stuff. You can end up with injuries in dancing. And this also this and it's the same thing. It's like looking at your body as if it's not you. You know, this is a bad foot, this is a good foot. No, these are both your feet, and you need 2 feet to walk and run and skip
Yeah.
and jump. So they're both good feet.
Yeah.
And so I started looking at how dance training happened.
Hmm.
I haven't spent so much time looking at the disconnect in the general population, because where I could really make a change and help people stay grounded in their bodies. Because I mean, I'm sorry, a little baby is in their body.
Hmm.
It is its body, right? Its body is hungry and it cries. Its body is full and it laughs. And it's not having this disconnect. So I'm like, how can I, as a teacher,
Hmm.
as a healer, I mean, I can help people reconnect with their bodies.
Hmm.
But in the growth process, are there places where we can avoid the disconnect? And I know you have kids growing up, so I'm sure that you're thinking about this all the time, because you're a mover and you're moving in your house and your kids probably move, and like I think everybody wants to not pass on the things that were challenging for them,
Yep. Yep.
if possible. Now, my idea is not just skip it, because then I have to think, okay, well, what did I learn from that thing that was so challenging? How much did I learn? And even if I wouldn't do it again, how has it changed my life in really positive ways? So
Yeah.
that would be my half full glass again.
Yeah. It's interesting with kids. So mine are 7 and 9, and I feel like they're still at the age where natural movement comes easily. Like we haven't entered that teenage phase where they want to kind of sit around and just, like play video games and read all the all the time. So they're still in the playful, silly mode. So a couple of things. Another one of the major modalities that I use, and people that I kind of train and learn from, is so Katie Bowman of Nutritious Movement. She does a lot of work in the natural movement realm. So there's a lot, especially it's finally like a big thing in the fitness world, natural movement. And it's just like, oh yeah, the human body, we are like animals, and we're just, we're so uptight and we're just sitting in chairs all day, and we're not in our natural environment. So of course our bodies are going to be formed to this new kind of fake habitat. Like this is a fake human habitat, right? We're not gathering food, we don't have to go far for anything, especially now, during COVID. It's crazy. So it's like you can get everything you want in one house. Just order it all from Amazon. You don't have to get up and down from the floor even. So, we lose the ability. I'm sitting on the floor now, and kind of you see my legs going all over the place because I'm stretching while we go. And so it's like if I were just in a chair, I would just be sitting in the same position, in the same shape. And, one of her big ideas or things that she talks about is you are how you move. So if you're only sitting in chairs and you aren't getting to, you're not getting to use all these movement vitamins, what she would say, then you're going to be deficient in those vitamins. And that's going to cause, just like certain sickness can be based on deficiencies in vitamins, the same like low back pain, all the things we talk about, the knee pain, low back pain, neck and shoulder tension, all those things can be related to the shapes that we put our bodies into regularly. She talks about that as casting. So it's like if you have your arm in a cast for a long time, and then when you get out of it, it's harder to move, your muscles have atrophied. And it's the same thing. We're doing the same thing by putting our feet in shoes, or only walking on the same, flat, hard surfaces, or only sitting in the same shaped chairs. You're in the couch, you're your other chair, you're in the car. It's all the same shape that your body is just getting molded into. And then we go to stand upright and our alignment's all off and we're still sitting. So that's one of the things. And so I bring it up with kids because it's part of, the kids are still doing that thing. But, people, if they're sitting like this all day, they come to stand up and their pelvis is still forward and they're still hanging out like this. They've just shifted things so that their eyes are on the horizon. So I can usually see, like you can see just as people walking around, like I could show you how he sits at his desk all day, or I can tell like there's something off, like she spends more time looking this direction at her workstation than straight forward. And, it's fun to get to see all that is. And it just relates to adults and children in terms of, okay, so we're not all going to be able to just go barefoot out in the woods all day, chopping firewood and doing all the old things that we used to do. Most of us have computer jobs still. That still needs to happen. So a lot of what Katie talks about and a lot of the work I do is very much around, okay, so how can we make modern life a little bit better on our bodies by involving more natural movement? So that's why I'm on the floor right now, because I'm just moving around. By the end of this little interview, I will have gotten practically half a yoga class for my hips, just moving my legs around here. So little things like that are really helpful. And then for the kids, it's similar ideas. It's like we started homeschooling this year, and I might continue doing it because my son is now in 4th grade. He'll be in 5th grade. And that's when it's like, sit down in your desk, do your work, and let's do that for most of the day and have one recess. Up to that point, he had several recesses in a day. And it's just like, I don't know, they just play. And so I don't know, like, I'm not sure what that grumpy transition is going to be. Will my kids be interested in what I have to say about the body at a certain point? Probably not. Will we try to have, we eat at dinner at a low, like Japanese style table. So there's some kind of getting up and down that way. We homeschool all over the place. I've done math work in a tree back in the spring when, my son has a hard time focusing. And I was like, what would help you focus right now? Can we do this in the tree? And I was like, yes, we could. We sure could. So it's just, for now, they're more influenced by what I have to say and they're interested. And I don't know what that looks like, though, in the future. Right now, we still start every school day with this habit that started when Clara was a baby that they used to do before bed, which is they call laughing time. It used to be more giggly. Now it's just like all out active, jumping on the beds, throwing each other everywhere, pillow fights. So we've been trying to start our school days with, it's short. It's like 11 minutes of laughing time. And then we'll sit down and we'll read for a while in any position. And I've been having them stretch because Leo's actually really hypermobile in his joints, which makes him really tight. His legs are like an 80-year-old, like it just like has no.
No, because the joints are mobile, you use the muscles to hold it, so and you use the exterior muscles.
Yep, that's what,
instead of the strong muscles close to the bone.
Yep.
It took me years to learn this.
So, but it's like how right now he's still a little bit open to seeing that. He's had a little bit of knee pain, so I'll jump on that. And he loves to be active. He wants to be a ninja. He wants to do parkour, and so it's like I try to use the things that he's interested in and say, well, so part of what's going on with your knee probably is because of the way you're put together, you have a lot of really great things going for you, but you're going to be a little tighter on your hamstrings. That stretch that you hate. It's hard for you because things are tight. Here's a couple. I give him. He'll sit on a ball and do like little massage around and just like, here, while we're reading, right? We read every night and every morning. It's like, while we're reading, why don't you massage your legs and your butt with this ball here, do a few stretches. I'll show you a couple and you can choose. But with him, like he's going to this is where it's going to be tricky. Like with Claire, it's just her fun everyday stuff. She's younger and she'll be a puppy all day. So she's getting all sorts of crazy stretches, just being a normal 7-year-old. And she squats all the time just to play. But I don't know. Like I'm kind of actively seeking out what is this going to turn into, because he's not always going to be receptive to my ideas. And what if he stops being interested in the active things because he's tight and it's going to be hard at some point. So these are all worries that I have. Right now,
it's another kind of healing journey.
What's that?
It's another kind of healing journey.
Yeah. For
your kids.
Yeah.
And I wonder how this will be. That's different than, well, I know he's going to not want to do this later. It's still the same thing. I wonder.
Yeah, I wonder. Yeah.
And I think it's great. I think it sounds fun. I used to do my homework in the tree when I was in the 7th grade. I had a basket. I carried my books up into the tree.
That's amazing. You can do that. But if you saw his feet, like he's got the most amazing like ballet feet. The arches are just ridiculous. So I'll be really curious what he does with everything. And right now I'm still cool and he's open to ideas, but at some point I'm sure, well, I'm not sure. Like we'll see if there's a little rebellion against like I don't care about anything she's talking about, or or if we just keep trying to have fun and be playful as a family.
Right. See, I mean, I think there's all these things that that sometimes happen with segregation, that if you don't have, that if you stay homeschooling because it works for your family, you don't have that us and them thing that happens. You have, this is what we do. We play while we learn. We stretch while we learn. We do this. We eat at a low table. We don't eat walking around the house or whatever. This is how we do it. And as a grown up, and then you can just tell them when you're grown up, you can pick and choose what you want to do.
Yeah.
And I think it sounds like fun. It sounds like a lot of fun. And I was going to say this thing too. I would remember when you were talking that I went through this phase. I think it was probably between 5th and 6th grade or something. And the entire summer, I watered the lawn and read books. So I just read tons of books from the library, but I didn't feel active. I had been active most of my whole childhood, and I just was like in that, that weird growing phase where you kind of bulk up and then you shoot up a little bit. And I think my body was growing, and it was tired. It didn't want to run here and do this and ride its bike and whatever. But I would set the timer and I would go move the water because it was an old hose and water thing. And I moved it around the whole yard. And my mom said it was the only summer that we had a green lawn. But again, I could have pushed myself to do a lot of different things. She could have pushed me. But she just said, well, this isn't how she normally is, so she must need this. Yep. And that's another thing about healing too, about giving your body permission to not be how it normally is.
Yeah.
On the way to being better than it has been for a while.
Yep.
I'm so glad that we got back in touch. Is this so fun?
That was awesome. Well, I was just thinking too, so that that was my experience with chemo, especially. It was like getting totally knocked down and then slowly building back up. And I was talking to someone the other day who's going through that, and it's just like, I feel so bad, I can't do anything. I was like, why do you feel bad that you can't do anything? Like, that's one thing I did not feel bad about. I was like, that was my expectation. I can't, and I had people ready to help. I was lucky. My parents kind of came and helped out, but even my husband was ready. It's like, okay, it's chemo time. Like, I didn't exist. I was not a human being in the world. Like, I just needed to be in a cave and watch some funny things on TV and sleep. Like, that's all I expected of myself. And then, asking for the help to be able to take care of my young children at the time and make sure someone else is cooking. Like, no one had any expectations of me, which is a huge privilege and a really lovely that I was able to do. But I mean, there's so many people that want to help. And that was important. And it's just like, well, why do you expect yourself to be up and about? Like, something is trying to kill you. Like, why can't you just watch something funny and take a nap, like, and just get through this and then like slowly build back up and then be a part of the world again? And somehow letting it, just knowing that's how it was going to be, asking for the help to just disappear for a couple of days and then to slowly get back in, having that space is everything. And it was easier for me to ask for it. And I'm glad you told your story, because it'd be harder for me as a mother on that end in this way. Like, you don't know how it feels. You don't know if I don't know. exaggerating or trying to get out of something. And
Oh, yeah, yeah, trying to get out of homework or whatever. Yeah.
I'm really glad you said that, because that's a hard thing for me on the other side of it with my own kids, and watching someone go through that process to not be, I don't understand. Like, why can't you just get back? So and so felt better by this time, and it's just like I had no one doing that to me, which is amazing.
Right. And that's so important because how your body deals with what you're going through. Yes, there are markers like you talked about. There's these markers on the journey. It's going to go up and it's going to come down. It's going to go up. But it's going to get, this is kind of the thing. But you can't say on day 15, you're going to feel A, B, and C.
Mm-mm.
And for people who like to know stuff, that's really, really scary. And that acceptance that, I mean, even I could go through the same exact treatment that you went through, and my whole experience could be different. My days could be different. The things that trip me up could be different. The things that were no sweat to me could have been the things that knocked you flat.
Mhm.
You just don't know, other than the fact that this is going to be challenging and it's going to take almost all my resources to do.
Yeah.
And the resources, again, that's the other thing, asking for help. Zoe, that was so, so smart. And you're right, people want to help, but they don't know what you need. But if you say, I need you to make dinner every night and bring it to my house so that my family can eat. I had somebody do that for me once when I was moving. She said, I can't help you pack. I don't want you to leave, but I will feed you every night.
Yep.
And that was like, oh, I didn't even know I needed that.
I had some moms that were like, obviously you need someone to come and clean your bathrooms while you're away, so I'm gonna just do that. It's just like, that's exactly the kind of thing that will get, like, just no one's gonna do it, no one's dealing with it, it's fine. She's like, I don't care, I'm a mom, I totally know this is useful, like, I'm just gonna do it. It's like, yes. But that kind of thing is great.
And we could probably talk for a million years, because there is something about accepting help that I think helps healing. That you aren't alone. That if you can, and it's acceptance on many levels, acceptance on an emotional level, even acceptance. I think chemotherapy, my mom had to do chemotherapy, and I think it's just hard on the body. But if you can accept the help that the chemicals are bringing, I think that you can recover from the damage the chemicals do in a different way.
Yeah.
And I had never aligned it to accepting help, physical help from people. But it's all the same in different rings.
Yep. I love that.
So we have in the description ways for people, and I love the name of your business, the Thriving Body. I love that.
I was actually almost embarrassed by it as I was setting up cancer appointments, just being like, what's your email? Oh, it's Zoe at the Thriving Body. I was just so mad. Just like, I have freaking cancer. And then my email address is Zoe at the thrivingbody.com. And I was just like, oh. And I considered it, I was going to change it for a second. And I was like, you know what? No. You can get back to it. Like, it's a wave. Like, you don't have to be in a thriving body at all times. That's
right.
not what life is. Like, you're not gonna at all times be in a perfectly thriving body, and that's okay.
And somehow your body is thriving now.
Oh yeah.
After it went through that, I mean, so in a way it was projecting forward health and wellness after the adventure.
Yeah.
However it was. So
I definitely call it an adventure. I do call it an adventure, yes.
Well, I like that for me. An adventure is full of problems and challenges and things that have to be overcome.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes a great story after it's over.
That's the other thing, actually, is the image of a labyrinth.
Ah.
Yeah. Like there's one, do I have it here? There's like the labyrinth of birth. But I read it anyway because it was like, this is my labyrinth. Like birth was fine. That was fine for me, but this is my labyrinth. Like it's not a maze. You're not making choices along the way that can throw you off, but you are battling a hell of a lot of demons. You will get somewhere, you will learn something, and you will make your way back out, like come hell or high water. And you will be a different person on the other side. And I very much considered it a journey, a labyrinth. And like you said, not being identified with the disease, I still don't like saying I'm a cancer survivor. I more often say I survived cancer treatment. And you know what I mean? Like I don't like.
I think that that's really, really important. It seems like a bizarre distinction. But even for me with COVID, I didn't put it in capital letters and I don't give it a capital C. It's not that important in the whole scheme of the world. So I'm not going to give it that importance. And this too, you had a cancer adventure.
Yes. I talk about that. I talk about cancer treatment.
Cancer treatment journey.
I went through cancer treatment for a year. I'll say that before I talk about having cancer or whatever. I don't know how other people say it, but that was somehow an important distinction to me. And I never really put a finger on it. It was partly because it, like I don't know, it's my body. It's just part of a bigger journey. We're still figuring it. I don't know. It's just interesting.
Yeah, no, I think this is really key because yeah, we can't solve this here, but it's worth thinking about. How do you want to talk about things? I mean, I still identify as somebody who has hypermobile joints, but when I don't think about that, when I don't think about that as a problem, and then the solution was this, and it took me a long time to solve it, that's a whole series of thoughts. When if I just think, how do I embrace the flexibility of my body in a strong and dynamic way instead of labeling it?
Yeah.
These are just games I play with myself, but
I know it's like both and, right? Both the label is useful for figuring it out and helping you figure out the path, but it's also then not useful to say this is who I am. Like it's both and, just like most things. But
right, because it has information. There is real information in what that means to have a hypermobile joint and how to work with it in a creative way. And sounds like you have used your labyrinth journey to great purpose. And so for people who are watching, we have Zoe's links. You can figure out how to connect with her. She'll be in the healing path. Her video will be there. And if you leave comments on here, we'll get back to you. So thank you so much, Zoe. I really, really appreciate that you could come and talk today.
Thanks so much, Laura. It was fun to see you.